Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Odin's Raven. This is published by Osprey Games, and it's a two-player game. In Odin's Ravens, you're going to try to race across the landscape to be the first one to make it back to Odin. Let's go ahead down to the table here. I'll show you how the game plays, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, this is Odin's Ravens. And Odin's Ravens, basically what you're trying to do is you're going to take your raven and you're trying to make it all the way along this track and then all the way back and be the first one to reach Odin. So you have to go all the way up and down. To do this, you're going to use these cards throughout the game. You're going to have your normal cards here, your raven cards, and you're going to have your Loki trickery cards. And to start out the game, what you're going to do is you're going to draw 5 cards. And you can draw cards from either of these piles. Now the Loki cards, whoops, I have one in the wrong spot. Now the Loki cards, there's only 2 each of them, and there's 8 total. So there's only 4 different types of Loki cards available. When you play a Loki card, so for this one in an example, I can actually remove one of these tiles from the path, or I can rotate it. One thing to note in the start of the game, when you start out, you place 14 of these out, and as you're placing them, no 2 of these territories can match. So I couldn't have had it this way. I had to rotate it this way. If you run into a situation where you're flipping a tile and you're not able to place it, just discard it and do another. And that's how you set up this. So when you're using this Loki action and removing a route, you will be helping out both players because it'll be one less location you have to go to. But when you flip it, so let's say I did the flipping action for this Loki card, I can flip it this way. And this is super helpful because if I play one of these wheat field cards, I will go to the end of the wheat field, which helps move me along. So matching these up help a lot. Other Loki cards that are available are going to be this one here, where I just draw 2 more cards, or I can add to the route. I will pull from this route deck, and I will place this down how I wish, and I'm probably going to do it in a way that they don't match. So that means that the opponent and myself, if I didn't already pass this, would have to go up and around, so it makes the track a little longer. This one works with the sliding card action, so if a card was slid up, you could either put this on top or underneath. So just keep that in mind. But if you do cover over a slid tile, these tiles that this is at can no longer be slid anymore. That gets us to, I'll do that action next. So that one here, I can slide a tile up or down. So I can slide a tile down, let's say like this. This makes this track shorter, and this simply changes this one. The other thing I can do is I can swap 2 of them. So I could swap these 2 or these 2, that's that. And then the final one that I have, I can move one of the ravens forward or backwards. It can be myself or the opponent. Now this is the one case where if you move backwards, you're not going to move like all the way here. You're just going to move one spot. This is simply moving one spot. That's all the Loki cards. So when you start the game, I'll show you the rest of this. You, again, can draw 5 cards. So let's say I draw 4 from here, and I draw 1 here. And players are going to take turns. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play as many cards as I desire on my turn. So let's say I did play this Loki card, so I did flip this. So now I'm going to play 1 grain and move all the way along there. What else do I have? I have this one, I can move here. I have another grain, I can move there. Now this would be the end of my turn, so I can draw 3 cards now for the rest of the game at the end of my turn, and they can be from either stack. Now one thing to note is, let's say I still have these 2 in my hand. I can play 2 matching cards to move up and treat it as a wild. So if I put 2 matching cards down, it's a wild, I can move up here even though I don't have that matching terrain. So your opponent will be moving up. Also, you're going to be using the Loki trickery cards to move around the board, and at the end of every turn you draw 3 cards. That is it until one player gets to the end. If it was the first player, the second player gets one more turn. If it's a tie, you guys race again. Otherwise, the player that reaches the end wins. So let's go up to the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts on Odin's Ravens. Okay, I really like Odin's Ravens. This is a really fun, abstract two-player game. It doesn't take very long to play. You're going to have to think a lot about how to slow down your opponent without slowing down yourself, or how to speed yourself up without speeding up your opponent. So you're going to have to balance moving along the track versus using some of these Loki tiles. And the Loki tiles don't reshuffle, where your landscape tiles do. So you have to keep that in mind. You only have 8 Loki tiles to use for the entire game. When is the best to use them? When is the best to maximize my movements? Or when is the best to sabotage my opponent? So it's a lot of thinking in this game for just a simple, easy to teach card game. And I really like that in that. I really like the fact that the landscape's different each time. You have different things that occur based on what that landscape is. So every game is different. I like that it is a strategy game where you know what your opponent can do. You know the Loki cards they could have, and the landscape cards are the landscape cards. Do you want to build your hand up to 7 so you can have one really quick turn? Do you want to blow all your cards and double them up and use them as wilds? How do you want to do your turn? Because in the end, it's that movement, and that's getting to the end that matters. Really, if you're looking for a great two-player game that has a not very long play time, super easy to teach, super easy to set up, this game is, I would highly recommend checking out. And that's my thoughts on Odin's Ravens. Thank you for watching.